Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden, and the mysteriously not long-haired Tim is opposite me, and thank you so much for checking out Second Legacy today. Today, we are going to talk about something that's really concerning coming out of New York. This is the scooter shooter. I'm not making this up. Everything will be linked in the description box below, but there's a lot of things from a Second Amendment perspective that we've got to talk about. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. We would love to have you help us spread freedom on the daily on this channel, and thank you for that consideration. The content today is brought to you by LAS Concealment. We're going to say a quick word, and then we're going to get to this content.
And the content today is brought to you by LAS Concealment. And if you're in the market for a holster for your favorite freedom tool, LAS Concealment is worth a look. They have everything that you could imagine, all molded from Kydex to your said freedom tool. Everything is fit directly to that model for a superior comfort and safety. They have inside and outside the waistband options, multiple designs, all sorts of different colors, and they are tested by the world's most elite special forces. Make sure you check it out. There's a link in the description box below, and thank you so much to LAS Concealment for making this content possible.
Tim, we got a situation here coming out of New York. Now, there's a lot of things we're going to break down, but before we dive too deep, per usual, how are you today on this fine Monday, sir?
It's Monday? Oh, you had to tell me that. I was doing great until you told me it was Monday.
It is, yeah. There's 4 more after this. In fact, actually, technically it's 5 because this is a filming in the morning.
See, because my ATF is my Sunday hat.
Oh, well, then you messed it up. But, the viewers are not going to be penalized for your malfeasance in your attire.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to dive into this whether you are ready or not, sir.
I'm ready.
So we're going to hit it. So, Mr. Producer, let's dive right in for the people on Monday. They got their coffee, and we've got the content. Number 1, please, sir. Disturbing videos show deranged gunman killing elderly man, shooting random pedestrians in broad daylight in New York City rampage. Now, before we go into the clips that we've got, before we go into the pictures, I think I can speak for Tim and I, and for Second Legacy, that this is not acceptable behavior. The things that we're about to cover are stuff that need to be rectified, but gun control is not the way to do it. This is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form, and I do not want any of the comments that we're about to make to be misinterpreted as making light of the situation. But this is something that we have to talk about. So with that disclaimer out of the way, Tim, I thought that New York had a lockdown on anything and everything gun violence related. In fact, how did this happen?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had what's commonly referred to in pop culture as the extendo. I believe he had an extended magazine in his Glock pistol, and I'm pretty sure that's banned in New York.
No, I know. You are correct. That is 100% banned.
Yeah.
In fact, I think if we just go down the list of things that we've experienced in New York recently, you've got, the older content, like you said, you've got mag bans, you've got certain things that you can actually carry and you can't carry and own. There's different licensing requirements. They just pass sensitive places. A lot of these things we were told should prevent random acts of, honestly, horror like we're about to cover. Of course it doesn't work. Well, but what's going on? This is insane.
I have one question.
Okay.
Is are drive-bys illegal in New York, and is murder illegal in New York? So
yes.
What you're saying is he broke multiple laws.
Serious ones.
It's almost as if he's a criminal and has no regard for law. Would that seem like a true statement?
That does. That does seem pretty apropos, if you would.
So passing laws that disarm the innocent, but has no effect on the criminal because the criminal disregards the laws anyway. Doesn't that seem a little bit like insanity to you, perhaps? It does to me.
It does. It does. Doing the exact same thing over and over again with the expected different result? Yeah.
Well, that's what
exactly right. But let's dive into this.
Yeah.
Well, 100%. 100%. But let's dive into this. Let me show you all the ways, my fellow Second Legacy viewers, about this, how this went wrong. Again, the promises of gun control tell us this is impossible. Number 2, Mr. Producer. Chilling footage reveals the moment a scooter-riding madman casually motored around a Queens neighborhood Saturday, shooting unsuspecting pedestrians with a ghost gun. Now, of course, one person was killed and some others were injured. This would qualify as a mass shooting, according to the Gun Violence Archive and the media. Okay, so now, the video that we're about to show you is heavily edited. It's blurred out, but it gives you the premise of what's going on. Number 3, Mr. Producer. So this guy, it's literally, Tim, exactly like you'd think it would be. This is someone riding down the street on a scooter, indiscriminately choosing targets with an illegal firearm, an illegal magazine, and committing crimes and felonies.
Yeah.
I mean,
so obviously
so twisted.
the laws aren't working. That's because the laws in New York focus on inanimate objects and don't focus on criminal behavior and what might
Exactly.
cause that behavior. So the anti-gunners rationale is, well, if we take the guns away, then killers won't be killers anymore. The only problem with that is
Correct.
just yesterday in the news, a Chinese person went on a rampage through a school, killed 6 people, and continued the rampage with a knife. With a knife.
But with a knife, though.
There are no guns in China.
Right. And the thing that's, yeah, of course.
Before the
there's nothing state mandated. There's no state mandated. The thing that's so terrifying about this, and if you really want to dive into this, I mean, like, one of the worst specters about all the violence and the crime that we're seeing nationwide and internationally is that it's happening in indescript moments. Like, you have people who are deciding to take everyday objects like scooters and then break any and all laws that are in the way between them and their outcome. And they're perpetrating these crimes that are horrible, and they're completely random. They are just driving down the street and just picking targets. So it's literally, are you walking down the right street or wrong street? And this is new behavior, Tim, and this is kind of what I wanted to go into and why we're covering this. This is not something that has happened in our previous years of our country. This is a recent phenomenon. And it's not because guns are brand new inventions. They've been here the whole time.
Yeah.
What could it possibly be? And that's an important thing to ask yourself. It's like, guys, seriously? Are we really blaming an inanimate object, or are we blaming the thing driving the scooter down the street?
Here's another question, right? So they always want to focus on the gun. Here this guy's driving around on a scooter. Why aren't we calling for background checks on owning and riding scooters? Because if you're mentally deranged, you could be using that scooter for nefarious purposes. How many times have we seen news in the last few years where somebody has ran down a Christmas parade with a car and killed and wounded people, or drove a Ryder truck into a building with a bomb? How many times have vehicles been used in crimes, but we never call for regulating regulating cars and doing background checks on cars, or limiting who has access to cars.
Right.
It always falls to the gun. No matter what happens in the United States, if there's a gun involved, they ignore every other inanimate object in the story, and they focus on the gun. And they also ignore the animate object in the story, the criminal that's doing the carnage. And I just don't get how they can justify this line of logic, because it's not logical in the slightest.
No. Well, it's not about logic. It's about a narrative, of course. I mean, we're going to a broader, deeper topic at this point. But I mean, I have my own theory on that. Would you like to entertain it for a second?
Oh, absolutely.
May I proceed? Okay. So the reason that I think that you don't see any of those types of things of what you're talking about, and by the way, if you're watching this, agree or disagree in the comments field. Cars, trucks, objects that are used every single day in normal day-to-day life, that's why they're not going to touch those, because that's crazy. They would never do that. But because they are trying to ostracize firearms and put them to the side of our culture and then eventually remove them from our culture, it's got to be focused on and ostracized and demonized and punished. Because if you isolate the object, then you can actually get what you want done. You're not going to be able to get support to ban or put background checks on a car purchase, because it's something that no one would accept. It's the exact same reason that gun controllers are not going to go after handguns across on a national scale and a federal level, because they know that there will be no support for that whatsoever. However, you go for AR-15s and they tell them it's weapons of war, and it, as Pritzker said in Illinois, well, it's the same as having a missile launcher. I mean, like, the more that you blast this out on full blast, on full indoctrination, you're going to have more of a response. That's, in my opinion, that's why.
Yeah. The attack on firearms ownership is two-pronged, right? They go after the guns. It's the guns. That's the latest social media hashtag. It's the guns. Mm-hmm. And they demonize the gun owners. So they're dehumanizing gun owners. How many times have you been on Twitter or Instagram or something, and some anti-gunner gets in your feed and says something like, oh, you own guns because you have a small member, or makes some insulting comment towards the gun owner, right? Seriously.
Not the small member, Tim.
Yeah, the small member, the digit. You got a pinky finger. It's like they constantly demonize the gun and the gun owner. It's a two-pronged attack. But you don't see them doing that to people that own scooters, people that own cars that can break the speed limit 3 or 4 times over. They don't demonize those folks. They don't demonize alcoholics and drinkers that go out and kill far more people in drunk driving incidents than people misusing firearms. They don't want to talk about that because, like you said, everybody out there likes their drink. Everybody out there likes their car. There's just too many people that like those things, so we're not going to target those. We're going to go after what we think is low-hanging fruit because only a fraction of Americans actually own firearms, so we can drive this wedge between the community and the gun owners. We can demonize the gun owners. We can demonize the inanimate objects, and then we can get our political agenda pushed forward. I guarantee you, if they succeeded in a ban on Glock-type pistols or Polymer 80 pistols or anything that loads itself, somebody would go out there and kill somebody else with a revolver or with a pump-action shotgun or a bolt-action rifle, and then they would say you can't have those either. They're just going to continue down that line until they get them all taken away, because this nonsense of we just want reasonable restrictions, we just want common sense gun laws is a frickin' lie. So there you go.
But did that qualify as a Tim rant?
It got there, yeah. These people drive me nuts. Okay. I just can't stand stupidity. These people exude stupidity. I'm sorry, I know that's rude, but I'm a rude person.
Not the people. Not the people, Tim.
The anti-gunners.
It's the premise. It's the thought process. The approach to infringing upon our rights. That is what you are referencing, not the people. The people are precious.
They're precious. I don't wish ill will upon them. I just don't agree with them, and I do think they're dumb. They don't think that they live in a logical fallacy. But anyway.
All right. Well,
that's just me.
Let's continue. That's just me. Yeah.
I need my wig.
Just me? No. All
right.
Oh my God. All right. Let's get back to this because we had a Tim rant. We went on a soapbox. We saw a squirrel. Let me show you a few of the details here. My beautiful people of the Second Legacy. Check this out. Number 5, Mr. Producer. The terrifying scene was one of 5 incidents in which the scooter shooters zipped around Brooklyn and Southeast Queens on an illegal scooter, Tim, opening fire on what police said appeared to be random targets, shooting 4 people in all. 1 person was killed and 3 others hurt, authorities said. It's just
illegal scooter.
To your point about scooters, like it's a legal scooter. It's an illegal scooter. You've got an illegal handgun. You have an illegal magazine. Letitia James just sued gun manufacturers to get anything out of the state of New York. What's the next step? Like, anyway.
I know.
Let me show you number 6 because this part I found interesting. I think you will too as well, Tim. Number 6, Mr. Producer. A high-ranking police source said this guy had a lot of ammunition on him. There were going to be other bodies dropped, end quote. The gunman, whose sources said is believed to be a 25-year-old with a single arrest for possession of a forged instrument on his rap sheet, was quickly taken into custody. Charges were pending Saturday. And Tim, I almost hear your question and I was prepared. What is a forged instrument? For the people. I did my research. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready, because that was my question.
Yep. See, love it. Generally speaking, I'm not a lawyer. This is from a New York law blog. You are guilty of criminal possession of a forged instrument, regardless of whether you are charged with whatever. If you possess a completed or modified written instrument you know is fake, and you do so with the intent to defraud or deceive another. To be clear, the New York State penal law does not require that the instrument be something of value to the government or a bank. Knowing possession of seemingly insignificant items as a New York State driver's license with an altered date of birth, temporary registration for a vehicle with a penciled-in expiration date, not on the original or other manipulated documentation, with the intent to defraud such a fake invoice with inflated price can and likely will result in charge of criminal possession of a forged instrument. It's a fake ID, Tim.
Couldn't they just say that?
You'd think. But
because people just look at that and go, I don't know what that is, and move on. You know?
No, I know. But that's why I read it in such a dynamic and engaging manner.
Yeah.
That we've got forged instruments. We've got illegal scooters, extended magazines, ghost guns. I mean, this is
all these things illegal in New York, and yet it didn't stop a crime. That's odd. I thought it would. I mean, why wouldn't you reasonably conclude that, passing that law would stop a criminal?
It's just
crazy times we live in.
It's really irritating. I don't want, and I think the part that we need to spend a second on is we're obviously being sarcastic against the approach of gun control and laws superseding all crime and all everything, even though the entire point of laws with penalties is to punish those that do it, because it's a well-known accepted fact that criminals do criminal. If they didn't criminal, you wouldn't need penalties on felony laws and stuff. But anyway, The thing that bothers me so much is the promise of gun control. Every single time, is common sense reforms, and it's just common sense gun law, and it's to address the epidemic of gun violence and the scourge of gun violence in the United States, because we are innately flawed, and it's terrible, and the Second Amendment is horrible, and the Constitution is just an egregious affront to anyone and everything who's ever touched it, even though it's the most freedom-bearing document that's ever existed. But then when it fails, even after all those egregious infringements and egregious comments about our Constitution, then they go, well, it's because the weather was sunny on that day and the moon had a lunar cycle and it was a waxing gibbous. So therefore, you can't control things that aren't in your control, but we can make sure those mags are still illegal. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense on any level, like ever.
Yeah. I just wish they would start focusing on the criminals, what's driving them, and how we can fix this, because I can guarantee you, especially in the cities where these things are primarily happening, because it is a big city issue for the most part, right?
It is.
The violence seems to like the cities, and nobody really wants to dive in any detail to figure out what's going on that's driving this violence. And you know what's weird is we get kind of focused on what's going on in the United States. But if you take a look globally, this seems to be going on all over the place. I mean, look what just happened in France. Look what's happening in Germany. I mean, we're seeing violence just erupting around the globe. So it's not just an American thing. Now, people will tie the gun thing to the American thing, but even then, look what just happened in France. Right. Running around the street with France again, I'm pretty sure illegal, right? They have laws against that. We did a whole video about it. So
yeah, it was a good one.
Nobody is trying to solve the problems. Like, what caused the problem in France? Nobody wants to talk about that, because you inevitably will go down discussion paths that people will go, oh, well, you're a bigot, can't have that discussion.
Exactly.
So we can't identify what might be going on in society and fix those societal things, right? There are cultural problems, there are societal problems, there are economic problems. There's all sorts of things that contribute to people becoming violent, and the lack of laws and law enforcement also contributes. And that's what we see in these large cities. People think that they can just get away with murder literally in the United States right now because of far left policies. We have stores shutting down. Every day I see another notification about another store in San Francisco that's shut down. San Francisco has wildly bad gun laws. They have all sorts of laws. They have laws on laws.
Yeah, it's not just gun laws.
Right? And yet they have nothing but problems with crime. And they continue to go back to the well of, well, we'll just ban something, we'll just pass another law. And it never fixes the core problem.
No. And I think you're honestly. No. I think you're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. The thing that, and this is fascinating. I'm sure psychologists have done some sort of study on this, or some sort of sociologist. But the fascinating thing about when you go down this road, because at the base level, and I mean, getting to your point of the root issue, at the base level, you've got two different philosophies of thought. How do you maintain order in a society? One, the conservative way, in this opinion, or in this portion of the laws, would be everyone has these rights, everyone can take care of themselves, everyone will deal with the problems as they come up. Then you've got the other side of that argument, which is the state will solve every problem for you through the use of legislative action. It's one of the two. The conservative says, we'll make as few laws as possible and let the details be worked out by the people. And then the other side, the more leftist side, says we'll make a law for every single scenario. The only problem that they run into, and it never, ever fails, it happens every time, they'll make a law that say murder is illegal. Well, people still murder. And then they go, well, now we're going to say it's a law to do murder with a vehicle. And then to do, you know what, was that vehicle registered? And hold on. What were the tires? What were the wheels? Was the insurance mandated? It opens these doors to where the state just encroaches. It's like mission creep to the extreme, while the conservative is, here's the ideals, here's the standards, sort it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's an incredibly important piece to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
I'm just a guy on the internet, Tim. Guy.
Well, it's just crazy to me that they'll pass these laws, the exact same bad act will happen, and they'll say, well, we just need to pass another law like the last one. We just came out of Biden touting his, most comprehensive gun control in 30 years. How's that working out for you, dude?
You mean the one that was the most sweeping in 30 years, but it also hasn't worked yet, so don't get upset, but also red flag law.
Well, it doesn't work because we got more laws to pass to kind of, buttress this law, but basically we got to reinforce this law with a complete and total ban on everything you own and everything you might want to own. And we're going to lock you in a room.
It's
maddening.
outside the realm of believable because literally, like to your point, see, this is the part where we just go off the rails, but it's fun. So, with the Senate Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which is touted as the 30-year, logjam
Save the
break of
world,
gun
it
control,
did. Yeah.
save the world. Yeah, it comes out. Nothing changes. They finally pass it. They say, well, it hasn't really been implemented yet. It takes a little bit of time. Then 2 days later, they're like, we just passed the most comprehensive sweeping gun laws in the entire history of the United States. But you just said it
Yeah.
isn't implemented yet. Yeah, but we passed it.
Yeah.
What? What?
We passed a gun law, hasn't
And then
done
you get on,
anything. But
and then you get on CBS News and you say like, well, yeah, I mean, technically, none of the states actually qualify for the red flag law funding in that bill because they have no due process. And then Chris Murphy, Mr. Gun Control, goes, yeah, he drove a hard bargain around those due process rights, so we put him in there. What world are we living in?
I know.
Oh,
And otherwise reasonably intelligent people. Like I know people like in family and stuff like that are, I wouldn't say rabidly anti-gun. They're just opposed to gun ownership, and they certainly buy into the rhetoric of, we don't need AR-15s and stuff like that, right? And these are intelligent people. And we have, spirited conversations around Christmas and stuff like that. We'll get together and rib each other and talk politics in a light-hearted way because it can easily destroy a family. And all they can do is parrot the talking points that come out of political parties like the Democrat
100%.
Party. And when you confront them with actual facts, they say, well, I don't believe that. Prove it to me. Like, okay, you like the FBI,
Okay.
right? You think the FBI is this great
Yeah.
world-class organization?
Yeah.
Well, here's their statistics. But they always come back to but what if, or but this, but that. And it always comes back around to, we just need to take them away. I don't believe any of your statistics. I don't believe anything that you give me as evidence. I just got to believe that it's the guns. Guns are bad. We need to get rid of them.
Well, but that speaks to the predetermined outcome of the conversation. It is not a logical conversation based around what we're going to talk about. Let's find the best way forward. It is literally ban all the guns, get rid of them, and then let's find our way backwards and find justification through some sort of thing behind here. It's not look at the statistics and the data and the freedom and the history and go forward. It's find designated outcome and then backwards. That's an incredibly important piece.
Yeah.
But that's like another video or two.
It is. Yeah.
Or three. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, anyway, what happened in this particular incident was a tragedy. The full unedited video is out there. I've seen it. You probably don't want to watch it, especially if you're queasy, because it shows some pretty bad suffering. And, it's brutal that these things happen, but we can't focus on trying to take away or regulate inanimate objects. The inanimate objects had nothing to do with this. The scooter, the magazine, the gun, none of it had anything to do with this. The killer had everything to do with this. We need to figure out how to stop the killers, figure out what's driving these people. What is it in their lives that's causing this? Is it medication? People bring that up. Because, like you said, guns have been in this country since its founding, but this is a more modern problem. So what has changed? Because it isn't the guns. Matter of fact, gun ownership among Americans has gone down in terms of the number of Americans owning guns percentage-wise based on the population. So that isn't the issue. Of course, they'll cite, the anti-gunners will say, well, people like me that own more than one gun, we're the problem because my guns have never done anything illegal, ever. Right?
Wait, Tim, you own more than one gun?
Yeah, I have two.
Color me shocked.
Yeah, I have two.
Color me shocked.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's unfortunate these things happen, and these things are going to continue to happen as long as we keep focusing on the wrong areas, looking for solutions to problems. And that's what we're doing in blaming inanimate objects for the actions of people. So anyway, we look forward to your comments down below, folks. If you have any comments about what happened here, if you know something more about this incident that we, at the time of this recording, didn't have information on or didn't know about, comment down below. We enjoy reading those comments, and sometimes it may, spur us to produce another video and make an update. We'll see how this all plays out, folks. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to be part of our call-in show, there is a link in the video description below. Follow that link and fill out some questions. We'll get you on the show. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon.